begins to negotiate
with
the angel. He says, you know what? He tries to take advantage, if you will, of the mercy that he's been given and wants to indulge in his laziness. You see, Lot was lazy because he said, you know what? There's a closer city. You know, the mountain is too far away. It's too long of a walk. I don't want to have to walk that distance. But yet there's another city right here. The walk to the city, it's flat. It's closer. You know, it's not as bad. You know, I can manage to go there, but I can't make it to the mountain. I can't go all the way to the mountain, even though that's where you say that safety is, even though you said that that's where I should go. I can't make it that far. I can't climb up to the mountain. You see, to get to the mountain is a bit of a hike. You can't just walk easily up to the mountain, but it requires a bit of energy to get up a mountain. I don't know if anyone here has ever gone hiking, but hiking is not like walking on flat land. It requires some energy. It requires effort to be put out on your part. But Lot was lazy. Lot didn't desire to put out any effort. At this point, just to get to this part, he had to literally be dragged out of the city. And so putting out any extra effort was not in his desire to do. So he said, let me just go to the city because, you know, the city's close by. It's a small city. They can't be too bad there. Let me just get to the city and I'll be okay. Just let me get to this place of comfort, another place of comfort where I don't have to go too far. I don't have to work too hard, and I'll be okay. And merciful as God is, Lot's negotiations were accepted. Lot's negotiations were accepted, and he was able to escape to the city. He was able to escape to Zoar, and that city was not overthrown. If we're to read that passage in verse 21 in the Amplified Bible, it says that the Lord yielded to his entreaty. In other words, he allowed what Lot petitioned to be done. Now I'm going to take a pause right here because too often God is commanding us to do something. He sends forth a command as he did this morning, issues a warning and tells us to get up to the mountain, get to a place of safety, get out of the place where we are. But instead of being obedient, we enter into negotiations with God. We start to strategize and think of any other way that we can accomplish what God has said without actually doing what he wants us to do, or doing it the way that he desires us to do. We become like Lot and we think that we can outdo God's plan and plan better than he can. We think that we can come up with something better than what God has in store. But let me share with you something this morning. God has already worked out a plan for your life. For as we've heard, he's coming from the future and coming towards us. So he already knows what will be. He already knows what was. And he knows all things. He sees all things. He understands all things. So when God has a plan, he takes everything, every minute detail into consideration. When we read the story about the children of Israel when they crossed the Red Sea, not an inch of mud, it says. They're in all those times when they were wandering in the desert, there was no, their clothes didn't tatter on them. Now you think that's such a small detail, but for 40 years, can you imagine wearing the same thing over and over, and yet no holes, no tatters, no nothing. When they crossed the Red Sea, they came out, and not even so much as mud on the bottom of their shoes.
Dry land.
Dry land. You think about the ocean, and you think about, even the waters here, when you look at the bottom of the water, there's so much murk and muckiness and dirt and whatever the case may be. But when they walk through on dry land. All that amount of water, the Red Sea was parted, and they walked through on dry land. So that nothing that they came through with the Red Sea, nothing attached to them, nothing grabbed onto them. They didn't come out with that filth and all that dirt from the water, but they came out as clean as when they went in. I don't know about you this morning, but I saw a God who pays attention to detail.
That's right.
He pays attention to detail, and there is nothing that we can think of that God hasn't already thought of. There's nothing that we can envision in a plan for ourselves that God hasn't already weighed the consequences, both good and bad. You see, my God is the Ancient of Days. He was and is and forever will be. He is the great I am. There is no changing in God.
That's right.
He is everything and he knows everything. So when he comes up with a plan, it's perfect. When he comes up with a plan, it's without flaw. When he comes up with a plan, he's examined every possible consequence, every outcome, and he knows that with this particular plan, he knows how to adjust the plan and how to allow certain things to happen so that everything works out as it should. You know, we talked about last Friday, all Friday and all night prayer last time. We talked about how, you know, when we see the rain come and we see the snow, we curse the rain and the snow because we want to be able to go out and play. We want to be able to enjoy life, and we want to be able to do what we want to do, and we feel sometimes that the rain hampers our plans. But take a minute to think about what would happen if there were no rain. You see, we enjoy the days that there are no rain because we think that we can go out and do what we want to do. But let me tell you this morning, the rain serves a purpose. For if you were just to think about your daily life and all the ways that you use water, where do you think that water comes from? From the moment when you wake up in the morning and you make your tea to have something in your stomach, you go and you brush your teeth, you're using that water. That same water that you curse when the rain is falling and there's thunderstorms and we're getting so upset because things aren't as we planned. That same rain that we get so upset because we wanted to have a picnic and enjoy ourselves outside, but yet this rain comes, is the same rain that we use to bathe ourselves and to become clean. It's the same water that the farmers need to use to water their crops for them to grow so that we can have food on our table to eat. So the next time you go out and you see that the raindrop starts falling, give God thanks for the rain. Give God thanks because He's ordained a perfect plan that rain has come to sustain us. It's come to provide that which we need. The same thing with the figurative rain in our lives. We curse sometimes the trials that come in our lives. We curse the battle because we don't want to fight, because sometimes like Lot, we're spiritually lazy. And we don't want to get up from the place where we are because it requires effort. It requires work. It requires us to change our plans. You see, you can't plan your life and expect to live the way God desires you to live. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. For you can't serve two masters. For you either love the one and you hate the other, or you hate the one and you love the other. If you are serving your flesh, you can't serve God as He desires you to serve. And so when that figurative rain comes in our lives, sometimes we curse the storm because we want to do things our way. We want to move the way we want to move and operate the way we want to operate, but not so with the Lord, for He has walked all our steps and He knows what is to come. And that rain, those troubles that come in our life have come to prepare us for what is to come. They've come to bring what we need. For as it was already said, our situation is meant to bring us a revelation. It's meant to bring us understanding, meant to bring us a picture, a clear picture of what is and who God is. But if we don't have that rain in our lives, we don't have the struggles and the trouble that comes, and there's no growth. For without water, there's death. You may be okay for a while, but your body can only survive for so long without water. You know, after a while, during the summer, when we haven't had that much snow like we had this year, and we haven't had much rain, you start to see watering ordinances that are cautioning people not to use water, not to water their plants outside of a certain time. And you know, when I was younger, I always thought that was so strange that they would only let you use water during a certain time. But you see, the city understood something, that if everyone is so frivolous with this water, it's only going to last but a time. If no more rain comes to replenish and to restore and to refresh, then everybody's going to be in trouble. If we don't have these trials that come in our lives to reprove us, to refresh us, to give us a new perspective, we're going to die. We're going to die. Because if you have no water at first, everything seems okay. You're able to sustain for so long, but then after a while your mouth starts to get a little dry, your tongue starts to swell a little bit, your arms start to swell because there's not enough circulation. So your water that we drink also helps the circulation, also helps the blood flow. And if you don't get enough water, after a while your bodily functions start slowing down. Things start to slow down and start to fall apart to the point where you can die of dehydration. Because without any water, there's no life. So next time you see the rain outside, give God thanks, for He has a perfect plan. And His plan is perfect entirely and completely. And next time you endure a trial in your life, give God thanks for it, knowing that all things work together for good. The Bible doesn't say that all things will be good, but it says that all things work together for good to them that love God and who are the called according to your purpose.